afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Forex Focus, the show where we look at the opportunities that could be setting up in the FX markets for the week ahead. In this week's show, we've got one opportunity that we're going to be looking at for the immediate days ahead, but we're also going to be looking at one or two others that could be setting up for the weeks or months ahead. We'll also be talking about some of the trades that we took last week and the trades that we still have on from last week and the way that we're going to be managing them going into the days and weeks ahead. So without further ado, let's jump on over to the charts and take a look at some of the trades that we're looking at today. Okay, so let's start off by talking about the Euro New Zealand, which is the trade that we were looking at in last week's video. We already had a few trades on from last week, but this was the one in particular that we were looking to actually execute this week. So the Euro New Zealand, as you can see from the daily chart here, if we zoom into the daily chart, this is in a big downtrend. The market had been pulling back, and this was the pullback that we were looking at. If I'll zoom in a little closer, this pullback right here was the pullback that we were looking at, and that's where we had our trend line on the 1 hour and the 4 hour charts. And as you can see here, ultimately we were holding beneath this structure here, which was what we like to see. The markets had been making lower highs and lower lows, and it's really just pretty much a perfect trade right there. We actually took the trade, the entry, off of the 1 hour, although we had the trend line in on the 4 hour here, as you can see. But the trade that we took was the breakdown of the trend line here. We didn't get in on an immediate break of the trend line because we wanted to see a little bit of extra confirmation. So we waited for the trend line for the price to break the trend line and then the price to pull back and retest the trend line. Once it had failed to break back into this range here, we were then waiting for the market to break beneath this, and that's where we ultimately got in with our trade. So we got in there at 1.4377. Our stop was above the highs here. We wanted to give the market enough room to be able to pay us, because as we've seen with the pound New Zealand, sometimes the market can sort of come back a little bit. So we wanted to give the market enough room to pay us. We didn't need it in this instance here, but nevertheless, we had our stop beyond the highs here at 1.4551. We then took profits on Friday, so just 2 days ago, at the lows here. The market already broke beneath those lows there. It was kind of messing about, as you can see here, and we took profit just around the middle of that range at 1.4063. So a very nice risk reward trade on the table there. Pretty much a no-brainer because we have a big downtrend in the daily there, as you can see. From a weekly perspective, the Euro New Zealand had also broken structure on a weekly. So we were very bearish this pair, and to be honest with you, had it not been going into the weekend, had we not already had additional euro exposure, and we probably wouldn't have taken that off of the table. But because we're already in the euro dollar shorts, we did take that off the table for some profits. So the other trade that we closed out last week was the pound New Zealand, which we've been in since the prior weeks. And that one we took off before we got to the lows. We got down, we took it off at the same points as we took the Euro New Zealand off. So a little bit up here at 1.9424. We still got a nice risk reward trade on the table there. So it wasn't by any means, it wasn't the best one. We had to withstand a little bit of pain there. But we did manage to take a nice risk reward trade off the table there, which is what you want to do as a trader, because ultimately if you're doing that, then you're always putting yourself in the best position to be able to make money. You can't go broke from taking profits on good risk reward trades, right? So that wraps up the pound New Zealand and Euro New Zealand. So they're now off our radar for the moment, unless we get a more significant move to the downside, and then we'll look for additional pullbacks. Or if the pound New Zealand gets down to these support areas that we've previously highlighted in some of the other videos, we may look for a liquidity fade at either this low here at 9249, 9085, or 8862. Somewhere around there, we would look for a liquidity fade if the market gets down there and shows us the right price action. We're still in the Australian dollar and the euro dollar. The Australian dollar is just pretty much been playing with our emotions the entire last week. It really hasn't, it's not really gone anywhere. It hasn't paid us. It's just sitting a little bit. It's actually about 100 pips out of the money at the moment. That's the trade that we took below the lows there, as you can see. So a little bit out of the money right now. but nothing we can do about that. We're still fundamentally, we believe that this trade is going lower, so we are happy to hold it. We've got quite a wide stop on there, so our stop is above the highs. If it takes us out, c'est la vie, what can you do? But if you look at this daily chart here, you can see it's a massive downtrend, so a lot of the momentum is to the downside. This pullback here was really the RBA when they didn't cut rates last week, so that kind of put a bit of or took some of the wind out of our sails. But as you can see here, the price action, it doesn't actually turn around that much. Now with a big surprise like that, you may expect that the price to completely turn around and reverse its course, but the fact that it hasn't done that gives us a lot of confidence in this trade for the coming days and weeks. So we're out of the money in that one at the moment, but we're holding it and we will see what happens. The euro dollar was going to take us out last week. If you remember in last week's video, we were literally just around our stop points. I'll show you exactly where we were. So we were playing around with these highs over here. We had our stop above the highs. But, you know, thankfully, because we were trading in the direction of the trend, because our trade is fundamentally sound, that saved us somewhat. And now the euro dollar is in a few hundred pips profit, which is quite nice to see there. What we're going to look to do with this one is going to be interesting. Basically, if we come down to these lows and we break these lows, we're then going to add another position. We'll then bring our stop up to just around somewhere around this previous level of support here, which hopefully will be able to provide us with some resistance. And ultimately what that will be is a free trade. So if the market comes back and stops us out, then ultimately we'll make a little bit on this first trade here, but the trade that we get into at the lows there will then take a loss, which basically should bring us out at about even. Now, why are we doing that? Well, we have a big fundamental bias to short the euro dollar. We believe this is going to go lower. The fact that we've got some nice profits on the table with this as well really just sort of strengthens our argument to take that short, and it also gives us the ability to add another position here pretty much risk-free. So we are giving up all of the profits that we would have on this trade here by the time we get down to that level, if it does turn around and take us out. But at the same time, we're giving ourselves a great opportunity to really make the most out of this short euro move. So if it goes below this level here, we'll then have two positions on, which will basically be double bubble, if you like, in terms of the profit that we will make on this trade. But it is a balancing act. It is a trade-off. As I said, by adding a position here, moving the stop up here, we're going to be putting ourselves in a free trade. But at the same time, we're also accepting that the few hundred pips that we already have on the table of this trade right here, we may then just go and basically write all of that off. But it's a small price to pay. It's a calculated risk. We think this is going to go lower. So that is how we are playing it. We then, with regards to the trades that we're looking at for the week ahead to execute, we're looking at the euro pound. And the euro pound here is in a position where if it breaks through the lows eventually, which can best be seen from the daily chart. So if you take a look at the euro pound here, it's broken through this previous level of support, it's come back and it's treating that area there as resistance. It hasn't managed to get above it, so it's come up to it once, broken down, come up to it again, hasn't managed to get through it. It now looks like it's breaking down again. If we get to break below this level here at 0.7217, we will certainly be in there, taking that short. We'll have our stop above the highs, and we'll initially be looking to see if the market can get down to the lows and how it reacts to the lows. And that's ultimately where our first target will be. If we go down there with some momentum and it looks like we're going to smash through this level, then we'll hold the trade. If the momentum starts to fade when we get to this level, then we will take the trade off of the table. So that's the one that we're immediately looking at next week. That's the one that looks like it literally could trigger this evening, Sunday evening, or tomorrow morning. And then finally, we've got the pound Aussie, which we don't believe that this is going to trigger now, but it's just something interesting to look at. Look at the price action. If we zoom in here on the daily chart, you can see that the pound Aussie has been making higher highs and higher lows all the way up. It's been respecting this trend line really quite nicely until we get to this point here. So if you see there, we've got markets bounced off that level once, twice. It's come up to this level here. It threatened to break through. It didn't. It then closed back up above and the market rallied off. So this trend line is quite a strong trend line. It's been in there since September, so nearly sort of 8-9 months. A lot of the market participants are going to be looking at this dynamic with this trend line as well. And if we get to break below it, then we could see a little bit of a change in trend. So the pound Aussie up until this point here had been printing higher highs and higher lows. It's only at this point here where we've got a lower high. If the market then breaks beneath this low there, we'll then have a lower low as well. And that could signal the trend change on the pound Aussie and hence an opportunity for us to start selling this pair. But that hasn't happened yet. It's just something that we certainly are looking at in the days and weeks ahead. Okay. So that wraps up this week's Forex Focus. I hope you've all found a lot of value there. You're starting to learn from the trades that we're putting out, from the trades that we're taking. It really is simple as just following the longer term trend. So looking at the weekly charts, looking at the daily charts for your direction, and then sort of pinpointing your entry with some of the lower time frames. Thank you very much for all of your comments that you keep putting up there, for all of your questions. As I said, the trader Q&A will start to go out, and we're just collecting all those questions now, and we'll start to put out some videos with answers to all of those questions. Thank you for those of you that come to the FX Street meetup. So it was nice to see so many faces there on Thursday. Again, we're hoping that you're finding value there, and generally that all of you guys and girls are really becoming better traders and starting to take more profitable trades. Okay, so thanks again for watching. Please remember to give a thumbs up beneath the video, post any comments that you want, or drop us an email. It's been a pleasure. Until next week, good trading.